Nice, thanks. Okay. Okay, cool. So since the recording is not working, we're going to be able to start. Thanks for attending this call and for not directly going to lunch. Yeah, no worries. So yeah, let's start this together. So my name is Fanny Moreau. Nice to meet you all. And I'm currently communications manager at ICO Partners, which is a PR agency that is working in Brighton. We are doing PR, influencer, and marketing for indie games and board games mostly, sometimes working with AA and AAA, depends. I've had the occasion to work with Finji, Bedtime Digital Games, Shiro Games, and lots of other studios, and I've been there for 3.5 years now. And before that, I was at Bandai Namco Entertainment France, where I was able to experiment what it was to work with Japanese IPs and how different it is from indie games. And for 3 years now, I've been trying to be as knowledgeable as possible about working with creative content creators and how to try and implement them into campaigns. Hello? So here's the table of content that we're going to check together today with what do we mean by creative partnerships, why consider them, what do you need to do that, case studies and examples, how to measure success, and then if you have any questions, we'll see that at the end of the talk. So this talk will explore how broadening your options and partnering with creative content creators can create an effective, engaging, honest, and more diverse influencer campaign. And we will discuss alternatives to the classic gameplay video and how to integrate all of this into a creative campaign that can work all together and doesn't sound like too all over the place. And while taking care of your game, but also your brand awareness, and not diving headfirst into the flood of content that is on Twitch and on YouTube. So, what do we mean by that? Creative partnerships is, in our book, a form of collaboration between a company and an artist / a creative content creator, which explicitly aims at targeting a new audience or sometimes an audience that is hard to reach by bringing together new perspectives and new resources. So, are all projects fit for that? TLDR, in our opinion, yes. I'm going to take a step back. Sorry about the noise. Depending on the subject of your game, it might take longer to have a good lead and to find a good focus of your campaign, but it's always worth it in our opinion. You might just want to take a bit more longer to ask yourself questions about which point of the game you want to focus your campaign on. And obviously, it depends also on the budget of the timing that you have to realize this campaign, because creative content might take longer to produce than just gameplay. And you will need to analyze how percentage of gameplay you want, how percentage of creative content that you want to imply in your campaign, and basically what is going to be the DNA of your campaign in the end. So why doing that? First, because you can reach out to new audiences or to niche audiences. If you want to learn more about niche audiences, I'm going to redirect you to my peers James Bartholomew talks on the GDC Vault, because he's made an amazing talk on this, and we're going to do a short version here. So a niche audience is interested in specific subject, but it doesn't need to be small. Like people that are interested into Vikings, into fantasy, into even diving. It's a huge public, but it's such a focused subject that it can call niche. It's a built-in, engaged, and enthusiastic public that will be ready to absorb every single kind of information that you are willing to give them. However, if they are pretty easy to target, and if they are willing to listen to whatever you're going to tell them, they will know if you don't do that properly, and if you don't do that with expertise, and if you don't do your research properly, if you're only doing this for the marketing and not really to speak to them. And yeah, it's a pretty easy link between gaming and non-gaming audience, which is one of the problematic that I think as the whole gaming industry is experimenting, how to get outside of the people that are already gaming. And it's most of the time something pretty easy to do with this. It allows you also to have an authentic campaign. Since the content is generated from an expert perspective, all those people already know what they are talking about. So they are the most prone to be able to talk in a good way or in the appropriate way about the subject that you're trying to communicate about. It also shows you care, because since everything is focused and everything is scattered rightly for an audience, it shows that you've done your research right and that you really want to communicate in a good way. It's much easier to get creative with different kind of options between, usually gameplay is a bit complicated to find creative way of doing gameplay or creative way of having Twitch streams. However, with creative content, we're going to see a few examples later on. You can go with illustrations, you can go with even doing a cake, you can go with cosplay, you can go with props, you can go with music. There's basically a lot to be done. And yeah, it won't be flooded by all of the content that is already fighting for space on Twitch, on YouTube, and yeah, so on. Hello. So some examples. We are going today to talk mostly about cosplayers, illustrators, and music. You can also see the cake that we've done for the influencer campaign of I Was a Teenage Exocolonist last year in August with Kim Joy that participated in the Great British Bake Off and is used to talk about cutesy stuff, wholesome games, is very much well versed in games and in books and all those stuff, and is really happy to communicate about them. So yeah, we made a cake with her. It can be budget friendly, obviously, depending on your resources, and by that I mean by the size of the artist/influencer you would like to work with. Most of the time we are working with small to mid-sized influencers because it's usually more affordable, and we are mostly doing this with independent games so far. It also depends on the type of content you would like to have, so cosplay, illustrations, so on. We observed, that the most budget-friendly kind of content is usually illustrations. So it could be a good idea if you don't have that much money. And it depends also the timing you have. So if you have a campaign that is like 1 month, it's going to be a really short turnaround. So you might want to only go towards illustration. If you still would like to go towards things like music and cosplay, it might end up in the artist trying to clean their agenda for you to be able to meet this deadline. So they will probably add into the budget to make up for it. So it can also, unfortunately, make a dent in your budget. And it depends as well as the country you're targeting. Obviously, if you are working with the UK or if you are working with Germany, it's going to be a bit more pricier because usually those kinds of creators are pricey. And however, they will give you, most of the time, if they're happy to work with you and like the communication has been going great and such, free assets. And by that, I mean work in progresses, stories on Instagram, and things to share basically of how their work is going. Because as influencers and as creative people, they need to communicate with their audience what they are currently working on, and they need to have a constant flow of content that they need to show their audience, because unfortunately social media is like that. So they can just like leave a space between two commissions completely void. So they need to talk about what they are currently doing. And if you allow them to do that, obviously it can also be changed, but like, please, this is under NDA until this date. But if you allow them to do that, they will definitely be usually happy to share stories and free things that are not in the contract. And if you don't have any budget, or if you're still in the middle of your studies, if you're only starting, I would recommend talking with your peers, talking with like colleagues, trying to go a bit outside of your circle to try and see, basically to get a bit interested into who is doing what, because you might never know. Like you might have someone that is doing music, you might have someone that is doing illustrations, and basically you can communicate with them and try to search something that could benefit them, but also benefit you. And maybe at the end of the subject, you can just like, you could talk about a quote, but at the end of the subject, just basically to, oh, that was me. So basically to see how it could arrange you, but also arrange them. You could get more easily than with gameplay, all your socials covered. So go either with your coverage, with all of the different kind of creative content that is available. You can basically cater to every single social media without having the same strategy everywhere. And I also mean that by gameplay usually needs to, I mean, obviously the influencers are talking while doing gameplay. So there's a language that needs to be understood while they're playing, but with images or with illustrations and cosplay, basically nothing needs to be said, and you can understand what's going on even without speaking the same language as the creators. So it can go wider than only the country that you're targeting. And most of the time, illustrators do not only cater to one kind, to one country or to one territory. And then durability and reusability. So all those content can be reused down the line, while usually in gameplay, if you're not careful enough, you might show stuff that needs to be discovered by the player first, or like might be a bit spoilery. It depends obviously of how the gameplay content is going, but like there are some stuff that would be better discovered by the player directly themselves, that you can control with creative content. So basically, you can show stuff without revealing too much about your game, and it doesn't need to be set up in time. It can be reused anytime that you would like for them to be reused. And depending on the artist that you're working with, it can also be used in a PR bit with possibilities of interviews. Depending also of the type of media that you would like to reach out, you could probably also reach out to artist outlets and to see if they would like to have an interview with your content creator, or just have like knowledge about the process of how did it work between you and this content creator to create this kind of illustration or this kind of cosplay and so on. Right here, so this is something that we did for I Was a Teenage Exocolonist, and you can show basically all the content you want on PS5 storefront. So it was also something that helped us gathering a bit more interest from audiences over there. Then, what do you need to put together such a creative campaign? First, you need to lay down good timing. Be mindful of how long your ideas are going to take. So back to the cosplay, illustrator, and cake things, every single stuff is taking different kind of timings. Illustrations can usually be done within a month, but it also depends on the availability of your artist. Cosplayers, I would advise to go for at least 2 months, because some things take a while, and it depends on the complexity of your cosplay as well. But if there's an armor or something that is a bit more intricate, it might even take longer than that. If you feel comfortable enough to do so, please try and seek for Q&A from artists, or try and send email even to just ask for some advice, and just to know later on when you will actually have to use that, just to know how long this artist is taking. Like just saying, hey, I think that you would be interesting for a campaign later on. Could you give me some information about how long you take to make those things? Just so down the line I can see if it's doable or not. And remember that you're not the only one looking for artists. So artist A, so choice A might not be available. So do that as early as possible. Contact them as early as you can, but also contact a bit widely. Like, do not set your choice on only one person. Just try to do a 3 or 4 artist selection per per availability that you have in your campaign, and usually you will have good results with that. And beware of holidays, because like us, they have usually a family and they're human. So if you do not use AI, you will have to do that even earlier. If you would like to post something for Christmas, if you would like to basically post something at every single hot marketing bit that are all of the holidays along the year, and yeah. Then be realistic about your audience and targets. Obviously, the amount of information you have on audience and target depends if you're marketing, if you're PR, depends of your involvement into the game. But I recommend to even if it's only a demo, to play it as much as you can and to try and seek out for what is the focus, what is the content that is the most remarkable for you, what is, in your opinion, the thing that is going to work the best, or the thing that you think is the best in the game. And from there, try to understand who is going to cater to. So from there, do not shy away from some audiences. I used furry because I tend to think that it's a bit frightening for a lot of marketing persons, and it's fine, I promise. As long as it's safe enough, and by that I mean, oops, hello. And by that I mean, obviously, be careful about your characters. Like, if you're working with a game that has minor characters in them, be careful. It also goes about what about the plus 18 communities? I feel like if your game has mature subject, if your game is basically capitalizing on the characters, you can probably go for it. Just be a bit more careful about what type of content the artist is usually posting. Try to be aware of not the history of the artist, but like how the artist is really behaving on socials and stuff, just to be safe. Do not go too far-fetched. It still needs to have a link, because otherwise it's just going to be a nice artwork and it's going to be nice, but it's not going to be useful enough for you. And give the right asset to the right artist. And by that, I mean, you should basically transform yourself into a private investigator and go through the artist's socials just to see what kind of character, what kind of landscape, or what kind of art they are usually doing the most, and what are the type of content that is appealing the most to their followings, just so you can realize what kind of character they are into, or what kind of landscape they are into, what kind of really precise type of art. And so you can give them the right asset or the right character you want them to focus on. Just so basically you can set everything that you can for success. Know where to find the right people. Every social media has a 5 type of content. We're going to see that after that. Go cross IP, and by that I mean go and check what the other people are doing. Obviously, do not copy them directly, but you can just still register what kind of creative content others are doing. And I mean that for games, I mean that for movies, I mean for every single basically type of entertainment. Do a background check, please. One of the way I do so, which is also useful to find new artists, is that I go through their following. And it's also useful to find artists, because usually when you have an artist social media type of profile, there are 2 kinds of profile that they're going to follow. Either their peers, so close friends or people that they're interested in, either other kind of artists that helps them into the artistic process. So they're going to they look up to their art, or they are going to be inspired by them. So you will basically have a list of people that you could also look into, because this artist also finds them interesting. And keep things in bookmark. And by that I mean, while we are all doom scrolling, on every single app that there is, we can just keep things into collections or into our likes and such, and keep them for later. So try to identify which other games or trendy content you can benefit from. And I used a funny Venn diagram here just because I wasn't sure of what kind of content would not be too touchy to use. But basically, if there is something that is either in another game, either in an animation movie, either in another kind of movie, or in any other kind of trendy content that you know is also like linked to your game, also appeals to one of the audience from your game, you might want to look into that. For example, with the latest Spider-Man animation movie, we've got so many artists that shared their spider persona, and so many artists that like basically showed up what they could do and the importance of their work, and like basically tried to make a piece that was representing themselves. And this is something that as soon as like there's some kind of phenomenon like this, I would encourage you to like go through it, usually there's a hashtag with that, like spider persona for this one, I think. And you should like just go through it and keep things in bookmark, and then from there try to look at their socials and try to look if you could use those. Sometimes they find you, like for so we got one of the clients that the game's name is En Garde, and this is an adventure game that is set in Spain, that is very much Zorro adventure kind of like, and some of the main character are LGBTQ plus. And they did an announcement to celebrate the Pride Month in June, and they got found by some really nice fan artists since then. And you should look into, like, check if you already have fan art from your communities, and if so, check what is important to them, why they did that fan art, and if there is some, like, this is basically, like, this is a really nice fan art, but for them, this is a sketch. So if they can have that many, like that big of an audience with only a sketch, imagine what they can do if you hire them and if you try to use their audience directly for your campaign. Identify which character has similar attributes to yours. In here, I'm using Kaya from Genshin Impact, and I'm using Rex from Exocolonist. Both have a similar kind of lore. They have a similar kind of attitude. They have even a similar color palette, to be fair. And by identifying who already made a Kaya fan art and trying to go through their content and see if they could also be interested into doing fan art for a sci-fi kind of game, sci-fi narrative kind of game, and seeing if they got the audience for that, you might be able to find some really nice gem in here. So a really quick look about if you're looking for, you should go to. There's not thread in there for now because I'm not exactly sure of which content is great there. I kind of feel like it's going to be a bit of a mix between Twitter and Instagram. So basically, it cosplayers and illustrators, but to see how it evolves. And obviously, you can also find artists on ArtStation. The only thing is, like, when you have the assurance, the guarantee that like their art is really, really nice because they are a professional. You don't have any guarantee about their socials, so you don't have any guarantee if like they have a big audience or not, if their audience is involved or not. The only thing you know is that they do good art and they are paid for it already. So yeah. A few things you need to think about for your next contract. So if they can share their references, write it in your contract, in your contract, just in case. It will be safer this way. Be ready to work with deposit, and mainly for cosplayers and for people that are that will have to buy material to do their craft, because usually, so they are going to have to buy all the material beforehand. So it's going to make a dent in their budget. So it might get them like not a bit late, but it will probably take much more time than if you already gave them the money to be able to buy all of that material and then be directly ready to work. It's also going to give them more confidence that they can work with you and lots of other good stuff. Right checkpoint timings, and by that I mean just like dates where they need to let you know how they are doing, at what stage in their craft they are, if they have any pictures to share, any sketches, just to like confirm that everything is going in your everything is going in the right way, and you're happy with what is going on with them, and yeah, that you're basically happy with where everything is going. If, despite all that, you're not happy with the result, I think it depends a lot of yourself and your personal opinion on this, but you might have to add in your contract, if like you're doing 50-50, if you're only paying half because in the end you won't be able to use the content that they produced, unfortunately. If you still want to pay, but like it's unfortunately it's like something that you will have to notice for next times, and if you can do that, that's great. And yeah, it's going to be basically how you feel about this personally, but please think about putting this in your contract. It will definitely help you down the line if you're not if you want to try creative content but you're not sure. Good relations as well. Give game keys. One of the things that we really like to do with ICO is like, we don't give a precise brief. Basically, since we've already targeted people that we know are already catering to our audience, we're going to eventually give them like a character or a landscape, like, we think you think it would be nice for you to do that, but also give a game key so they can experiment themselves the game and have all of the context they need, have everything they need to basically take what they need to put their soul into a piece, and also help them with pricing if needed. One of the things that the artist is, I mean, all kind of artists are bad at is pricing their work. First, because I think, unfortunately, worldwide we've like used them to not give enough money for their craft and not like value it for what it's worth. So basically, a lot of people are like, yeah, so I can give you that much. And you're like, I'm pretty sure that's not enough to cover the cost of the material, what you're saying right now. So please let them know firsthand, like while you're discussing contract and stuff, are you happy with the price you're giving me? Or do you want us to go more into it and check if it's actually like reliable for you, if you're going to be able to actually pay some things at the end of the month with that. And it's definitely helping with them wanting to post some free contents and like some stories and some work in progresses. Basically, as soon as you help them with that, it's going to set up a relationship with them that is going to help you along the way, and for them to be more adamant to check if everything is going all right, to check. It's going to basically help you through every steps. Please be on top of things. By that I mean be extra tidy. Check all of your contracts. Send NDAs just in case we're never sure enough. Check what are the available references, and by that I mean all of them, because we never know, they might decide to like, they might see something in your available references that they really like and that they want to add in their illustration. Because sometimes we have an idea and then we see a reference that we really like and we're like, wait, it's going to go a different way this time. And write a full list of the do and don'ts, just so they know. At least it will be less questions to ask. And decide beforehand if you want to give them creative freedom or a tight brief. Also check with them, because I tend to find that lots of artists don't really know what to do when you give them full creative freedom and when you don't give them a brief. So check with them if they're comfortable with it. If they're not, try to do a tight brief. And if you are okay with it, try to draw something, even a stickman thingy, just to explain what you're imagining, like what you would like even more, and try to help them with poses and with construction of the thing. If you have a really, really tight brief, it will definitely help them. So, now to some case studies and examples. The first one we did was with Magic the Gathering, and if anyone doesn't know what is Magic the Gathering, so it's a popular, trendy card game that has been around for more than 25 years now, where players can create decks of cards representing spells, creatures, and other fantasy stuff. And they launch a new set basically every 2 to 3 months. And every set has is a special edition. They all have a very, very focused subject. And one of the things we did for their Kaldheim set in 2021 was to commission, produce, and launch a song with 2 musicians and content creators, Jonathan Young and Peleke. It has been composed exclusively for this card set. And then the song was printed into vinyl, and a music video was published by the content creators. And we also used this vinyl to be distributed a bit like a press kit to selected European media and influencers. And we organized some giveaways and similar things. And so for this one, the audience was pretty obvious, since the set is already trying to cater to an audience and like already has a subject that it's revolving around. But basically, by trying to go a bit more into metal music, we try to go a bit outside of the gaming space and try to cater to people that might only be interested by the metal side of thing or by the Viking metal side of thing, but could eventually, if they're pushed a bit, go to the gaming. Second one was for Tunic. Tunic is an action-adventure game developed by Isometric Corp and Andrew Schulweis in 2022, published by Finji. And it is set in a ruined fantasy world where the player controls a little fox like here. And the game has been announced in 2016. So basically, the problematic here was like, how do we communicate outside of the gaming world and outside of the gaming journalist that basically has awaited the launch of this game since 2016? How do we go outside of that and like try to communicate that this is not only a Zelda game with a cute fox? For that, we tried to go a bit outside of what we were used to do, and we went with props, we went with cosplay, we went with a bit of illustrations as well. Those 3 are the ones that worked the best in the campaign, but they're not the only ones that we did for it. You can see the budget, you can see the impressions, and even though for this time we went a bit wider on the audience, not that much focused, but we went as well wider with the creative side of things. It definitely gave us a lot of impressions. And as you can see at the bottom of the screen, we got, for the props, a 3 sword and shield pattern. For the cosplayers, we got 3 work in progresses, we got video making of, all of those things that were not into the contract, but as the job went and as everything was going nicely, they shared with their audience for free what they were currently working on. The biggest creative content creator campaign that we have to do so far was for I Was a Teenage Age Colonist, published by Finji last year in August. And this is a narrative RPG with card-based battle in a solarpunk universe where you have to experiment, grow, make life-changing choices, and then do it again. This is basically the biggest example of like, you might not know where to start because it caters to so many different audiences, and it has so many different gameplay mechanics. It has so many different kinds of subjects because of course they're sci-fi, but they also have some furry characters. It's kind of mature depending on the route that you're going with. It's like, there is a lot of things that you have to choose from. And this is an example of like why I suggest you to play the game again and again, and to write down what are the things that are the most appealing to you through your gameplay experience. To try and fragment it, and then I'm going to have a heart attack. So for this one, we had a budget that was of 10K USD. You can see all of the impressions on the screen. And we choose basically several types of niche audiences with the solarpunk, with kind of visual novels, even though it's not a visual novel, but like narrative RPG also have something overlapping with visual novels. So trying to trying to tease them and go onto the narrative RPG side of the game. Going for mythical aesthetic, a bit of furry, a bit of mature cosplayer. And I put big quotes on this because it's just that like the cosplayer is a bit more like has a habit of doing cosplays that are more presented in a mature way, but not that much, like nothing that is not safe for work and such. And you can see the impressions, and this is once again the only like 3 partnerships that work the most. But for this campaign, inside of the 10K USD, we did 18 partnerships total with props, with cosplayers, with illustrations, and yeah. So, how to measure success after all this? There's the traditional way, which is bit.ly links to storefront, impressions, likes, view, and everything that will be related to numbers, which is pretty traditional within campaign. But there's also realistically, and it depends on the perspectives, and it's also much more human as soon as you're working with artists, because you will be able to observe the strongest comeback with like word of mouth, with people that are going to tell you, so I'm not that much into gaming, but I was able to still see the communication that you put forward for your game. And it's ultimately going to go outside of the areas you've planned, but it's going to take a bit more longer. However, it's going to do well for your brand awareness and for your game. So if like on the spot there are no mathematic proof that this directly worked, it will come on the long run. And that's it. Please let me know if you have any questions, and otherwise, please send them to this email address. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation. I wanted to ask about if an artist is making a cosplay or something like a final product, and you mentioned that they post free content for their own. Do they have to mention if it's a sponsored thing or not while they post free things, or should that be in a contract somewhere, or how does that part work with the
well, but one of the things with free content is that obviously, since they are not going to check with you and they're not going to like ask you if that's all right, or sometimes they do actually. Sometimes they will tag you directly and they will say, I'm working with this studio, I'm working for this game, but sometimes they're not, and they're only going to tease what is going to happen later on. But most of the time, they will do it themselves. If you see that like they've posted something, you can also sometimes say something like, feel free to tag, be careful of the way you say it. Not, please think about tagging us, but like, feel free to tag us. It's a bit of a different way of saying it, but basically, if you just say, oh, you can tag us if you want, most of the time they will do so themselves then.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Hiya. With finding creators on services like YouTube and Twitch, with Twitch, you've got services like Sullygnome that are really, really good for quickly searching through creators. I find with YouTube and especially TikTok, that isn't anything really as accessible. Do you have any like recommendations?
Not really, because unfortunately for you, I am like online all the time, which is like, so it's easier for me to find leads that I can follow and find content creators. However, there are a few like, you will have to get into it basically, but there are a few hashtags that you can go through and from there find the content that you're looking for. Like one of the things that we've been struggling a bit currently is like finding people of color for all of our cosplays, because I mean, I don't have any reason for that actually, but it seems to be a bit more complicated, more over with fantasy. With anime and manga, it's usually fine, but with fantasy and stuff related to it, it seems to be a bit more complicated to find that. And if you go through hashtag like Black cosplayers and such things that are related to this kind of communities, you will be able to find things more easily than usually.
Thank you.
Sure.
We maybe have time for one more question.
Yeah. Please. Yeah. Yeah. Please feel free to send me a message if you don't have enough time.
So I think you mentioned that it's hard to sort of like get the metric of like the return of investment, right? But I suppose like maybe like, do you ever use like a link that sort of clicks through and through your sales funnel, and you kind of like track their performance based on that, like, and see like what your return on investment, like your conversions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you ever use anything like that in your pipeline or in your funnel?
Yeah, absolutely. I was mentioning Bitly links to storefront, for example, and this is something that we use most of the time. So we ask them in their description of the content that they're posting, basically, to write just a small sentence that is like, this has been done for this game. This is launching this day, and you can buy it by following this link. And but one of the downside of that is that people that are enjoying content creators are usually not going through links, even though if you put it in the description, like they're going to they're going to go to your game, but through another way usually, because while you're scrolling this type of content, usually you're on your mobile, and it's not really an easy way to just like go to Steam or go to your storefront through your mobile. So they're going to be like, okay, I'm going to write that down, or I'm going to like look for it, but on my laptop and on other type of technology. And so yeah, that's basically what I mean. But like, you can obviously use Bitly links and such, but it's going to be a bit difficult to do the math with that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, nice. Thanks everyone, and yeah.